Elvis walked into the bank for what should have been a routine business meeting. Instead, the president looked at his guitarist Scotty Moore and said, "Mr. Presley, we can't approve loans for clients who associate with undesirable elements." Elvis asked one question. "What's undesirable about the man who created my sound?" What happened in the next 48 hours didn't just cost one bank everything. It brought Wall Street to its knees. It was March 8, 1965, and Elvis needed a $50,000 expansion loan for Graceland renovations and studio equipment. His accountant had recommended First National Bank of Memphis, the oldest and most prestigious financial institution in Tennessee. The bank's president, Harrison Caldwell III, was a 58-year-old third-generation banker whose family had controlled Memphis's financial establishment for over a century. Elvis arrived at the bank's marble-columned headquarters with his longtime guitarist, Winfield Scotty Moore III, who had been with him since the very beginning. Scotty wasn't just Elvis's guitarist, he was his musical architect, the man who had helped create the Memphis sound that revolutionized popular music. Scotty Moore was also Jewish, and in 1965, Memphis, that still mattered to people like Harrison Caldwell. "Mr. Presley," Caldwell said, rising from behind his massive mahogany desk, "it's an honor to have you consider First National for your banking needs." Elvis shook his hand. "Mr. Caldwell, I'd like you to meet Scotty Moore, my guitarist and music director. He'll be involved in the studio expansion planning." Caldwell's warm smile immediately cooled. "I see. Well, perhaps Mr. Moore could wait outside while we discuss the financial details." "Why would he wait outside?" Elvis asked. "The studio expansion is his project." Caldwell cleared his throat uncomfortably. "Mr. Presley, First National has certain policies about who participates in confidential financial discussions." Elvis felt the first warning of trouble. "What kind of policies?" "We prefer to limit sensitive business conversations to principals and their direct family members." "Scotty is family," Elvis said simply. Caldwell's expression hardened slightly. "Mr. Presley, I'm sure you understand that in the banking business, we must be very careful about confidentiality and character associations." The phrase, character associations, hung in the air like smoke. Scotty, who had been quietly listening, spoke for the first time. "Mr. Caldwell, I've been Elvis's guitarist for 11 years. I'm not here as an outsider. I'm here as his business partner." Caldwell barely looked at Scotty when he replied, "Mr. Moore, I'm sure you're very talented, but this is a financial institution, not a recording studio." Elvis's jaw tightened. He was beginning to understand what was happening, but he wanted to give Caldwell a chance to clarify. "Mr. Caldwell, exactly what's the problem with Scotty being in this meeting?" Caldwell walked to his office window, looking out at downtown Memphis. When he turned back, his mask had slipped completely. "Mr. Presley, First National Bank has been serving the finest families in Memphis for over 100 years. We've built our reputation on discretion, tradition, and maintaining relationships with people of appropriate character." "Appropriate character," Elvis repeated slowly. "What does that mean?" "It means we're careful about who we associate with." "You're Mr. Moore here?" Caldwell gestured vaguely toward Scotty. "His background raises certain concerns." "What concerns?" Elvis's voice was dangerously quiet. Caldwell returned to his desk and opened a manila folder. Winfield Scott Moore, born 1931, parents Samuel and Rebecca Moore, formerly Moskowitz. Jewish heritage, no stable community ties, profession in the entertainment industry. The silence in the room was deafening. Scotty's face had gone pale, but he maintained his dignity. Elvis, however, was struggling to control his anger. "You investigated my guitarist's background." "Mr. Presley, we investigate all significant associates of major loan applicants. It's standard practice." "And you found his Jewish heritage concerning?" Caldwell's smile was thin and cold. "Let's just say that First National prefers to maintain its traditional client relationships. We're not comfortable extending credit to individuals whose business partners might not fit our institutional values." Elvis stood up slowly. "Mr. Caldwell, are you telling me you won't approve my loan because my guitarist is Jewish?" "I'm telling you that we have standards, Mr. Presley. If you want to do business with First National Bank, you need to understand that we expect our clients to maintain appropriate associations." Elvis looked at Scotty, who was sitting perfectly still, his hands folded in his lap. In 11 years of working together, through every success and setback, Scotty had never asked for recognition, never demanded credit, never complained when critics and fans focused only on Elvis while ignoring the musical genius behind the sound. Now this banker was telling Elvis that Scotty's religion made him unworthy of being in the same room during a business meeting. "Mr. Caldwell," Elvis said, "let me tell you about appropriate character." He pointed to Scotty. "This man taught me how to play guitar when I was a nobody from Tupelo. He created the arrangements that made That's All Right possible. He's been with me through every recording session, every breakthrough, every moment that built my career." Caldwell looked bored. "Mr. Presley, I'm sure Mr. Moore is a competent musician." "He's more than competent," Elvis interrupted. "He's a genius, and you're telling me his religion makes him unsuitable to be my business partner? I'm telling you that if you want a $50,000 loan from First National Bank, you need to decide what's more important, your business relationship with us or your association with him." Elvis stared at Caldwell for a long moment. Then he reached into his jacket and pulled out his checkbook. "Mr. Caldwell, how much money do I currently have on deposit with First National?" Caldwell consulted his files. "Your various accounts total approximately $280,000, Elvis began writing. "I'd like to close all my accounts immediately." Caldwell's confidence faltered. "Mr. Presley, let's not be hasty. Perhaps we can discuss alternative arrangements." "There's nothing to discuss," Elvis said, tearing out the check. "Here's a withdrawal slip for the full amount. I'll take cash." Cash? "Mr. Presley, we don't keep that kind of money on hand. We'd need several days." "Then you have until close of business today to arrange it," Elvis said, "because tomorrow morning I'm calling every newspaper in Tennessee and telling them exactly why Elvis Presley no longer banks with First National." Caldwell's face went white. "Mr. Presley, you're making a serious mistake. First National has connections throughout the banking industry. If you make this public, you'll find it very difficult to secure financing anywhere in the South." "Is that a threat, Mr. Caldwell?" "It's a reality. We have relationships with banks in Nashville, Atlanta, New Orleans. Word travels fast in the financial community." Elvis smiled for the first time since entering the office. "Mr. Caldwell, you seem to think you have more power than I do. We're about to find out if that's true." As Elvis and Scotty left the bank, Elvis was already making plans. His first call was to his lawyer, who immediately began the process of withdrawing Elvis's money from First National. His second call was to Sam Phillips at Sun Records, who recommended a Jewish-owned bank in Nashville that would welcome Elvis's business. His third call was to the Memphis Press-Scimitar newspaper. The story ran the next morning under the headline, "Elvis Leaves First National Over Religious Discrimination." The article detailed Caldwell's comments about Scotty's Jewish heritage and the bank's demand that Elvis choose between his loan and his guitarist. The reaction was immediate and explosive. By noon, protesters were gathered outside First National Bank, carrying signs reading, "Banking while bigoted," and "Elvis says no to hate." Jewish community leaders organized a boycott of the bank. Civil rights activists joined the cause, pointing out that discrimination against any minority threatened all minorities. Most damaging of all was the entertainment industry response. Within 48 hours, Johnny Cash, Jerry Lee Lewis, Carl Perkins, and dozens of other musicians had publicly announced they were pulling their money from First National. The bank's entertainment industry client base, worth millions in deposits, evaporated overnight. But Elvis wasn't finished. He used his connections in the music industry to expose similar practices at other banks. Stories emerged of Jewish musicians, black artists, and other minorities being denied loans or forced to use intermediaries for basic banking services. The scandal spread beyond Memphis. National newspapers picked up the story. The Anti-Defamation League launched an investigation into banking discrimination. Congress announced hearings on religious bias in lending practices. Wall Street took notice when First National's stock price plummeted 30% in a single week. Other regional banks with similar discriminatory practices saw their shares tumble as investors worried about boycotts and regulatory scrutiny. Harrison Caldwell tried to save his bank by issuing a public apology, claiming his comments had been misunderstood and that First National welcomed clients of all backgrounds. But it was too late. Major depositors continued fleeing the bank. Corporate accounts worth millions were closed. The Tennessee state government announced it was reviewing its banking relationships. The city of Memphis began moving its municipal accounts to other institutions. Within 6 months, First National Bank of Memphis was effectively bankrupt. The institution that had controlled the city's finances for over a century was sold to a Nashville bank for pennies on the dollar. Harrison Caldwell III lost his job, his reputation, and most of his personal fortune. Scotty Moore, meanwhile, became a symbol of the fight against discrimination in the music industry. He received offers from major record labels, was profiled in national magazines, and became a spokesman for interfaith understanding. Elvis could have just taken his business elsewhere quietly, Scotty said in a 1966 interview. Instead, he turned his personal experience into a platform for fighting discrimination. He risked his own business relationships to defend me and others like me. The scandal also led to concrete changes in the banking industry. The Equal Credit Opportunity Act of 1974 included provisions specifically prohibiting religious discrimination in lending, language that was directly inspired by the Elvis First National case. By 1970, over 200 banks nationwide had changed their policies regarding minority clients, not because they wanted to, but because they had seen what happened to institutions that practiced open discrimination. Elvis's new bank, Merchants Trust of Nashville, actively recruited minority clients and became known for its progressive lending practices. Elvis served on its board of directors for 10 years and helped establish loan programs specifically for musicians and other entertainment industry professionals. The economic impact extended far beyond banking. The success of the First National boycott inspired similar actions against discriminatory businesses across the South. Jewish, Black, and other minority communities learned that economic pressure could be more effective than legal challenges in changing corporate behavior. Harrison Caldwell never worked in banking again. He spent his final years as an insurance salesman, occasionally giving interviews where he blamed outside agitators and political correctness for his downfall. He died in 1983, largely forgotten except as a cautionary tale about the costs of bigotry. First National Bank's Marble headquarters was eventually converted into a civil rights museum with a permanent exhibit about economic discrimination and the role of the entertainment industry in fighting prejudice. Scotty Moore continued as Elvis's guitarist until 1968. When he left to pursue his own recording career, Elvis threw him a farewell party attended by hundreds of musicians, including many who had supported the boycott. In his farewell speech, Elvis said, "Scotty Moore taught me how to play guitar, but more than that, he taught me that talent and character have nothing to do with religion, race, or background. Any institution that can't see that doesn't deserve our business." The guitar that Scotty used during those early years with Elvis, the same guitar he was holding when Harrison Caldwell questioned his appropriate character, is now displayed in the Country Music Hall of Fame with a plaque reading, "The Sound of Integration: How Music Changed Banking." Today, the story is taught in business schools as an example of how corporate discrimination can destroy even the most established institutions. The case study shows how quickly consumer boycotts can spread in the modern media age and how celebrity activism can amplify social justice causes. More importantly, it demonstrates that economic power can be a weapon against discrimination when used by people willing to sacrifice short-term gain for long-term principle. Elvis could have quietly accepted another bank's loan offer and avoided the controversy. He could have continued banking with First National and pretended not to notice their prejudice. Instead, he chose to use his fame and fortune as weapons against institutional bigotry. In doing so, he didn't just defend one Jewish guitarist, he helped break down discriminatory practices that had excluded minorities from full participation in American economic life for generations. Sometimes the most important battles aren't fought on stages or in recording studios, but in marble-columned banks where powerful people learn that hatred costs more than tolerance and that true character isn't determined by religion, race, or background. It's determined by how you treat people when you have the power to hurt them. If this incredible story of loyalty and economic justice moved you, make sure to subscribe and share this video. Hit that thumbs up to support more stories about using wealth to fight discrimination. Have you ever seen someone sacrifice business opportunities to stand up for their principles? Let us know in the comments and ring that notification bell for more amazing true stories about the price of prejudice.